here now with Malcolm and Alison Robertson. You're from NHS Western Isles and your role in the project was requirements gathering. Tell me a wee bit, just summarise what that means.
Well, I guess the project was ultimately aims to develop this mental wellbeing chatbot, but to do that, a crucial part of it is to gather what the needs are of the users. You could just develop a chatbot and put it out there and hope people would use it, but it probably wouldn't work. So you really need to gather what people's requirements and needs are around mental wellbeing and the potential use of a chatbot.
And what methods did you use to get the information? Surveys?
We had focus groups, really. I think that was the most useful thing. We had, a mixed group of staff that work with people with mental health needs, some other NHS staff, some third sector groups, and some people that use mental health services, as well as some members of our own team. And we employed some researchers from UHI to do structured kind of interviews and facilitate that workshop. And I think it was actually quite useful having a mixed group, I think.
And what did you discover then that people do want from a Chatpal bot?
A range of things. I mean, no two people want exactly the same thing, but in general terms, it's quite common findings. I would say it tended to split down into a mixture of some practical things and then some specific functionality. In terms of the practical things, quite commonly people wanted it to be easy to use. They didn't want to have to faff about and try and figure out how to access this chatbot. Also needed to be accessible. And part of the draw of a chatbot, I guess, is that compared to traditional services for mental health, is that it's accessible 24/7 pretty much. The other one we found was they actually spent quite a bit of time getting into the persona of the chatbot itself. So quite interesting things like they wanted generally that it was female. It came across as a female around about in the 30s. That was the kind of optimum age.
That's
I have to stress
fascinating,
that the group that we were gathering these from was fairly representative. It wasn't all middle-aged men who were selecting these personas, but that was the type of things that we were coming back with.
I was surprised at how many of that group had experience of using something like Alexa.
Yes.
So, I don't know whether they were used to a certain kind of voice, but they actually, more of them than I thought, had some experience of. For me, I'd learned more about what chatbots are via the whole project. I didn't actually know much about that, but lots of people actually had that experience.
That's true.
And the fact that it's typed, it's text, it's not a voice, but it's fascinating that when I've done a little bit of going on it, of course, even though it's just typing on a phone or on a laptop, you can't help form a picture in your head. So I'm guessing what you're saying is kind of what I thought. For some reason, I thought it was female. It doesn't say there's a name.
It's true, yes. It must be the language that uses it somewhere.
There are people working in this field that believe that if it's text, so therefore there is no real persona, it's actually better because you create your perfect therapist in your own mind. So
exactly.
Perhaps that's what you've done. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So Alison, tell me a wee bit about what users you think it will suit and what people you think it wouldn't suit.
I don't think we should presume about that. I mean, we will find out in due course from the research, because what we know about other digital products is it's not just young people that use digital products. We know there's older people, retired people. There's people that are very busy at work. They have no time to go to appointments to see life coaches or psychologists or whatever. So actually, I don't think we should presume in advance who will use it. We will find that out.
I think there's a couple of things though in the nature of a chatbot that makes it perhaps more attractive to certain folk. I'm thinking of the fact that it's largely anonymous. So some folk might welcome that anonymity that you might not get, although most services will protect people's privacy, but there's always that stigma of going to, an element of stigma some people find going to a traditional service.
And back to the way you gathered the information and analysed the needs, what would you say were the most useful aspects of that?
I think the focus group itself was useful. It allowed as Alison was saying, a range of people to come together and bounce ideas off each other.
I think it was useful actually having a mixture of, there were some clinicians and some, of the public and other services, because I think it actually helped challenge some clinicians' perceptions about digital stuff, that people weren't all rejecting this idea. Many clinicians in the health service believe that we need human beings and it must all be real face-to-face clinical services. But actually, the other service users that we had there weren't saying that. Nobody said, this is rubbish.
Well, it's not an either or. I mean, that's what's always stressed. Certainly anything, it's not in place of other stuff. Are there other methods that could be used? What other methods could there be used in terms of the information gathering? Did you try other stuff?
When we started the initial trial, so this wasn't the full trial of testing the use of the chatbots, we did gather some feedback from that, and that was pretty useful. I mean, it ranged from simple practical things about how they logged on to the chatbot, that type of thing, to other people's ideas about how the chatbot was coming across. So that informal feedback through to actually using. Was that
gathered face to face with people, just asking them, or were they
Arian, the project manager, would email around the users.
People were very aware. I mean, even when I've clicked on that it is a pilot and that it's still a work in progress, so you realise, And finally, how much co-design was involved, and what does co-design really mean to you?
It's quite a buzzword, co-design.
What is it? Sounds to me like you're designing it in conjunction with someone else. Is that?
That's exactly it. It's all about ourselves who are actually working on the project, working alongside the users, but also, I guess, mental health professionals who may be involved in supporting people who are using these types of approaches. So it's bringing all the different people with an interest or a stake in the product together to
an inclusive approach as opposed to a top-down or them and us.
Inclusive, but that's exactly, you need to be careful with using the term co-design not to get into them and us, and especially since in the end what we're designing is a mental well-being tool, not an intervention for very serious mental health problems. So I think it's difficult to say who the them and us would be, but we did, I think the focus group with a variety of people out with the research team, I think was a really good thing to do.
And I think as well, the focus groups was an element of the co-design. So that gathered people's needs and wants and likes and dislikes about the chatbot. But I think there's a stage beyond that where you take that information and then start to build the actual solution, where you need to take people with you along that journey as well. So you don't just take all their information and off you go into a darkened room and come back with something. Well, there you are. We've built this for you. How do you find it?
It's completely over there compared to what they want. Well, we probably will be chatting to other people about that. So it's fascinating putting all the pieces of the jigsaw together. But thank you very much for taking your time, and lovely Stornoway.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.